All right, thanks for joining tonight. We'll go ahead and get going. My name is Stephen Davis. I'm the council president. Joining me tonight is Kevin Nichols, our scout executive, Derek Bovenkamp, our council commissioner, Matt Latimer, our executive vice president, a variety of board members, and members of the One Service Center committee that have helped form the presentation tonight. Our goal this evening is to review what we can share of the National BSA bankruptcy settlement. There's plenty of information that's been online. We want to try and consolidate that information as directly as possible to discuss the Mount Baker Council's contribution toward that settlement, again, what we're allowed to share, and ultimately how we serve members and units moving forward. A couple points to comment here and call out. We welcome questions either during the presentation or at the end of the presentation via email. We do ask those questions via the Q&A or the chat box just to reduce background noise. And one other note about questions is outside of the information that we share of the National BSA settlement, we're not going to be able to share any additional information this afternoon or this evening. So we do ask questions are related to what we discussed regarding the One Service Center model that we're wanting feedback on. And lastly, as you were notified when you joined the meeting this evening, the call is recorded. We'll be posting this call on the Mount Baker Council website for review later on, along with the survey that we're going to be sending to various folks throughout the council. Kevin, if you can move on to the next slide, please. And actually got that covered. So we could already move on to the next slide after that. So the national bankruptcy. So what's going on right now is the settlement of individual abuse claims throughout the BSA has fallen to the national arm. As an outcome of the national bankruptcy, the goal is to create a trust to provide compensation to victims while allowing national to carry on operations once the bankruptcy is settled. As an extension of that, as an extension of national carry on their operations, obviously it's our so as well. I want to point out here that the majority of claims related to any abuse-related issues are prior to the implementation of strong youth protection standards, including Too Deep leadership. The other thing that I absolutely want to underscore is the Mount Baker Council as a entity under national, as our separate 501c3, as a separate nonprofit organization. We have not declared bankruptcy. We are not in that position to declare bankruptcy. So there's a little bit of a complication that goes into the structure here, but that bankruptcy is pushed through by national. If we hit the next slide there, Kevin. I want to underscore that while there's been a significant number of claims related to the national bankruptcy at all levels, including the Mount Baker Council, again, the preponderance of those claims is from the mid-1980s and before, prior to strong youth protection standards. National implemented those standards in the mid-80s that have carried on through today with iterations to things like youth protection training. The Mount Baker Council has taken those standards a significant step further. Somewhere around 10 to 15 years ago, the Mount Baker Council Executive Board adopted standards that require annual youth protection training for all adult volunteers. That's a departure from the national standard, which is a biannual training or every other year. It's a pain point that we all go through during recharter, but frankly, it's an important tenet of our council, an important cultural milestone that we've adapted and adopted to make sure that we are providing the safest and strictest standards to protect our youth and ultimately to protect our adults. In addition to requiring annual youth protection training, 100% of our direct leaders are trained in their positions. And then lastly, as all volunteers in our council as well as national, background checks are completed for all volunteers. I think it's safe to say that throughout BSA and especially in the Mount Baker Council, our youth protection standards and our view on safety is at the highest it's ever been, and that BSA is an incredibly safe program. I happen to be dialing in from Fire Mountain this evening, where I've been spending all week as a assistant scoutmaster. I'm wearing a wristband that shows that I've registered for this camp. I'm wearing a wristband that shows I've gone through my background check. my annual youth protection training. I could not be here with that. I've been trained as every other adult volunteer here this week to make sure that I'm actively participating and monitoring for Too Deep leadership, that I'm keeping an eye out for other adults wearing wristbands, things that might not be the most convenient, but things that all of the adults that are here and that have been all summer, and frankly, every adult in all of our units understand the importance of making sure that we carry on those safety standards. I'm proud of our council. I'm proud of the decisions that we've made to implement such standards. We remain one of the few councils in the country that have annual youth protection training and continue to be a leader throughout the United States with that standard. Next slide, Kevin. So if you've been paying attention, or if you've found any information in the news regarding the national BSA settlement, this is a high-level overview of what we can share. There is slightly more detailed information on the website listed below, that bsarestructuring.org. If you Google BSA restructuring, it'll take you straight to that site. So this settlement that is on the table right now is a milestone that's been reached in the national bankruptcy case that combines an agreement between the national BSA arm, the ad hoc committee that's been helping local councils at the mitigation table, and various parties of victims claimants. All of them have agreed to this potential settlement that includes $500 million being contributed from local councils to this victims trust, significant contributions from national BSA, and potential contributions from other sources. I can't share too much more detail about this information here. Again, what is shared is on the BSA restructuring. The fact that this is still an active and open case that's being mitigated, changes are happening on a regular basis. We can't extrapolate too much more information other than this. But in terms of the $500 million contribution from local councils, that comprises contributions from just over 250 councils, including the Mount Baker Council. It's a significant dollar that we're looking to contribute. I think a point that was made early and often and frequently throughout the updates that I've received, as well as Kevin, is that while one victim is one too many, we're looking forward to making sure that we can play our part in this contribution to help settle this case and continue BSA and continue scouting in the Pacific Northwest. So as it relates to the Mount Baker Council, Kevin, next slide, please. We cannot share at this time the proposed contribution from our council. However, for us, and as recommended by the Mount Baker Council Board of Directors, as well as our Finance Committee and our Property Committee, our best path forward, the path that we see as the easiest, direct, and frankly, the strongest path for our council to make this contribution, it's the recommendation that we sell and liquidate our Everett and Bellingham service centers. Both these service centers were acquired from a merger of the Mount Baker Area Council and the Evergreen Area Council over 25 years ago. These two service centers are at the furthest distance of our service territory. We serve scouts from Snohomish County all the way up to the Canadian border, and Everett and Bellingham are basically at opposite ends of that service center. As an optimistic view of the liquidation of these service centers, it gives us an opportunity to establish a new service center to serve all of our units throughout our council in a manner that they need served, as well as in a manner that we feel is the best that we can do from a council. So we want to share that information, and we want to try and reinforce this decision is how we feel is the best path forward. There's other sources that we can potentially look to fund this contribution. Certainly, we can take out a mortgage or a loan on the Everett and Bellingham service centers. We can do so with our camp at Fire Mountain. Both of those paths require us to take on debt, which is incongruent with the standards that our board has adopted. Should we choose to stray from those standards, it also would require us to take on significant mortgage payments and alter our budget, which we frankly don't want to do. We have an endowment. The endowment has enough money to cover the contribution. However, that endowment is a separate third party. It's not technically part of the Mount Baker Council, and the role of that endowment is to give us funds in order to carry on operations. So it's really upon us to figure out alternative methods for which we can make this contribution. And again, the recommendation from the entire Mount Baker Council Executive Board, our Finance Committee, and our Properties Committee is to sell and liquidate that Everett and Bellingham Service Center. Next slide, Kevin. So what's next? We want to be surveying all of our members, as many people that are willing to take part. We want to know what's important about a service center, in terms of location, freeway access, is it nearby? Is parking important? What services do you currently use that are most important? Frankly, what services do you not use that you could live without or use with any sort of remote type of option? What services would you like to see added or updated? We've got a survey that will be asking you these questions and a few others. We've got responses that we can make in order to help spur some thought and some education on that. We're happy to make sure that we get this information out, but we need your help in providing feedback back to us. We need our voice, frankly, of the customer, and it's you that are on the line and everyone else that's not on the line to give us this information so that we can make sure that the decisions that the board makes are in the best interest for our council. Kevin, next slide. So there's really not a ton of information that we can share much deeper. We wanted to get this information out in the form of this webinar tonight, prior to us sending a survey without a lot of context. We wanted to make sure that there is an open channel of communication for those that do have questions. So we will go ahead and take Q&A at this point in the chat box again. And I see a couple questions that have come through that we'll address. I need to underscore that we do ask questions that they are related to a one service center model, not really about the Mount Baker Council contribution or the national settlement. We really can't share too much more information other than what we did. If there are questions that you have that you feel is maybe you're uncomfortable asking in this format, that's okay. There's an email address on your screen. That email address is routed to your council key 3, which is myself, Stephen Davis, the council president, Kevin Nichols, our Scout executive, Derek Bovenkamp, our council commissioner, and Matt Latimer, our incoming council president.
So Stephen, the first question here is, what is the due date for when we must make the contribution? And I actually don't believe that is set in stone yet, or we have an ETA for that. That's right. That we can share.
So until the case is fully settled and the bankruptcy proceedings have completed and gone through, in which contributions will be discussed and timelines will be discussed, that is somewhat TBD. At this point here, the contribution date is likely not any earlier than October 31st of 2021.
All right, Stephen, so I'm going to ask you the next question. Does the new service center model include a trading post or store? That's the need of this questioner's packs. Are you frozen, Stephen? I'll answer it. If Stephen's frozen, it looks like
yeah. Go ahead, Matt.
I mean, that is, of course, one of the questions that we are asking, and one of the questions that the survey will inquire as to the benefits of, what exactly goes into that new service center. I think we're contemplating that there would be some kind of a trading post store, but how that's going to be configured, what kinds of things will be there, what's going to be most useful for the users is going to be something that's driven by the survey and further discussion. But we expect that there would be some kind of a trading post at the new service center.
Yeah, and then the next question here is, are there ideas for the location of the new service center? We've talked a little bit about that, but the key part of the committee has been discussing everyone's needs. So everybody on the call, your needs. We are going to have a questionnaire that you can answer and give us some feedback about the area. These are some of the things that we'd like to know. Thank you, Kevin. And that'll certainly help the council decide how best to serve everybody.
Yeah, someone asked about pin colors. I think Kevin can answer, but I think these represent units of where the units of the council are.
Well, actually, it represents in general, the addresses of all the registered scouts in our council.
Oh, okay. There you go. So that you can see it as heavily weighted in the south just because of the population center, but plenty up north as well. So that's location is going to be a key decision point to make sure that we have it convenient and a useful place for everybody in the council to access.
Steve, you ask great questions here. Every time you ask a question, you break Stephen. The next question here, I think he's connected, is will fees be going up this year to cover these costs? Stephen, are you able to?
Yeah, so I'm back on. Lynn Strube, I know that you're on the line. Our internet burped at Fire Mountain, so I'm not blaming you, but you helped with it. So, our activity fee is tied essentially to the national activity fee or the national service fee that is charged. It's been discussed, and the activity fee. I can't remember if we voted on the board. I believe that we did vote on the board that yes, the activity fee will be increasing this fall by, I believe, Derek, $6 or $7. It is in no way, shape tied to our potential contribution of the bankruptcy. The introduction of the service fee or the activity fee, frankly, is a modernization of how we fund our program. We've moved away from a family FOS ask at the unit level to ask those that participate in the program to fund their way for the program. And in the event that that's too much or it creates a financial hurdle, we have opportunity funds to help carry that cost and help that scout be involved. We don't want any scout to be turned away for financial reasons, but it is not, we've got other methods in which we can fund our contribution, and it's not through the activity fee. The activity fee funds our program. It's how we pay for our office staff. It's how we pay for our district directors and district executives. It's how we pay for program and services. It's how we keep camp maintained. It's how we help buy supplies. It's how we help buy supplies for summer camps and day camps. It's not tied in any way, shape, or form to the bankruptcy.
All right, Stephen, next one. What is the expected budget for the new service center?
Actually, that's all in discussion right now. Robert, thanks for the question. Part of that is going to be based off of the needs of our council and the needs of our members. We've got some requirements in terms of office space that we think that we need to have based off of the office staff that we have. We've got some requirements in terms of record keeping that we may or may not be able to look at alternative solutions for, but in order for us to understand how much we're going to be needing in terms of space and ultimately figuring out a cost is going to be based off the needs of the council and location. I think the other thing that I would add to that too is we also don't necessarily want to rush into.
There he goes. I'm not sure how he was going to end that answer, but I think the answer is to be determined. That's all part of the
sort of long-term decision. We might have
Hey, Stephen, welcome back.
I'm back, I think.
Yeah, so I think you left off just talking about kind of we're still in the process of deciding on budgets, and that's all going to be driven by what we need and what kind of services we're going to be offering.
Yeah, 100%. We can't figure that out until we have location and size of the building locked down. The one other point I added is we may have a temporary location. We may continue to occupy the Everett Service Center for a brief period of time until it's liquidated. It really is a factor of making sure that we make a decision for the long term, which means that we don't want to rush into a decision if we can work with a temporary solution in the short term.
Next question here, Stephen, is have we discussed any other alternatives to raising funds than what we discussed on the webinar? Any other ideas that other councils are using?
Yeah, we've had dialogue through various forms of communication with other councils, raising funds specifically for a bankruptcy settlement or a contribution towards a bankruptcy, I should say. That is not a realistic fundraising ask. I don't think we're going to have very many donors that are going to actively raise their hand to contribute towards such a such a fundraising goal. So again, that we looked at alternative models and we discussed such information with our finance committee, our leaders that help really evaluate how we spend our money and where that money is being spent. And again, the best path that we've received recommendation for is the sale of our service centers.
Yeah, and then quickly to add on, I think a lot of us, and I hope the volunteers and everybody on this call would agree. I think a lot of the board is we're thankful that we have a no debt pledge and that these properties are paid off. And like Stephen mentioned earlier, because they're paid off properties and their legacy of the two old councils before they merged to become the Mount Baker Council, this really gives us an opportunity to, almost 30 years later, start over and put our service center where it should be located and with what it needs as if we were one council. So I really see this as a positive here that we're able to contribute what we need to contribute to help the victims and, in essence, kind of start over anew. And I'll hand it to Matt for the next question here.
Yeah, this is a question from Eric. Have we considered a traveling scout shop in a van bus? And Stephen, you can answer that, but I could just quickly say yes. That's one of the ideas that people are tossing around as a potential way to be useful and save on space, but also get resources to where people are at.
Yeah, COVID caused our council to have to adapt to being a shipping and fulfillment center for goods and services. We're not a fulfillment center. We didn't have the infrastructure to send out patches. And I know that a variety of you folks have felt some of the pain around that. We'll get better at it, but an outcome of these discussions was exactly that. I call it a food truck model. The idea of posting up shop maybe in Edmonds for one day, maybe in Bothell for a day, up in Bellingham one day, Skagit County someplace, maybe out in Oak Harbor. There's some funding challenges with that, but there's also some service opportunities that gives us an opportunity to shake hands, meet people, share best ideas.
Yeah, he's off. But yes, that's a component. Derek, do you want to go to the next one?
Yes. Yes, I think these two are really tied closely together, so we'll handle them. Do we have a timeline for when the Everett Service Center would be closed? Do we have a date? I'd say the answer for that right now is no. We're actively discussing what's best, and we don't have a date right now. And then the next question, probably best for Kevin here, is will there be furloughs that would affect services at the service centers?
Our current staffing has been in place since August of last year, and our current budget is maintaining this particular level that we can provide services. The staff here at the support professionals as well as the field staff. We have to raise the dollars every year from $0 to the ending budget, which is 1.7 million this year. We have to raise that to make sure that we pay for all the services we provide, but there's no anticipated reduction in the number of people right now. And in fact, we'd love to be able to hopefully add some more people to help us grow the scouting program through membership growth. But yeah, we're going to be committed to the level of services that we are as best we can within the budget that we are working with.
Yeah, I'll, if I can interject, again, in this case here with the utilizing our service centers as a pathway for this contribution, avoids any stress or undue cuts to our budget. So no, there's no foreseen furloughs.
Great. Stephen, neither of these are questions, but I'll read them out so you can, react to them if you'd like to. From Robert Moore, people are more likely to give to a capital campaign for a new office than raise funds to contribute to the trust. So that's an idea to be shared and thought about. The other comment from Steve Ross, a new central service center may be an opportunity to consider updating processes which allow for digital form submissions, digital signatures, etc. Paper forms being hand delivered is a current and future constraint. So any reactions to those, Stephen, or?
Agree on both. I think one of the outcomes of COVID has also been, is still behind. Nonprofits in general are behind, but if there's more things that we can do with e-signature and electronic document delivery that keeps encryption at high levels and again processes the flow of information, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I would just add on the new recharter page for this year went live yesterday, and we have a push for digital form submission, and so I certainly agree with that question. Is anything that we can do? We also believe that makes the process easier on our volunteers as well, that they don't have to deliver a form or try to deliver it to a person or mail it. So 100% agree with that.
And this is Kevin, and I would double down on that, especially for when we start recruiting, especially the elementary school kids into our Cub Scout program this year. If units could actually utilize the online registration system, that makes it so much easier for everybody, and actually takes a lot of the work out of the units' role of collecting paper applications, money, and stuff like that. The parents can just pay for that right online and get their youth registered in the scouting program. Again, that's a great theme, is that as much as we can get them on digitally, the better.
So I think there may be some more questions coming, but right now we've run through our questions. I'll just say my piece and then be quiet because I think we might be done here. And Stephen has done a good job expressing this too. As we've thought about the potential contribution or sale of the service centers to fund the contribution to the trust, one of the things we've seen is a great opportunity, as Derek mentioned, to kind of update our processes and also find a location and a service model that brings us into the 21st century. And so in that sense, it's a really exciting opportunity, even though obviously we'd prefer to preserve as many resources as we can. But one of the things the One Service Center Committee is looking at is not only location, but purpose, how services can be delivered efficiently, what kinds of services aren't we delivering well now that we could deliver better in a new configuration. And the survey that's coming out to all of you and others is really to get your feedback. We think we know how we use it, but there may be great feedback coming from you about things that we haven't even thought about. So I think in the long run, this is going to be a great blessing for their council, because we'll be able to start afresh and really put something together that's going to be useful for everybody. So that's my 2 cents anyway.
Yeah, and I'll echo that, and it has to do with the questions piece that you asked about the idea of inserting a contingency into the purchase that the Mount Baker Council can contain. So we've thought that are inherited from a merger that was 25 years ago. If we could set up a service model to address our current territory, I doubt we would have service centers in Bellingham and Everett and in Bellingham and Everett. So it's really upon us to figure out how do we modernize this. And I failed to mention at the start of this presentation that the folks on the One Service Center Committee include, again, your key three, but also representation from each district. It's either your district chair or someone that your district chair and district director nominated and agreed to serve, as well as representation from our properties committee. So we're trying hard to make sure that we've got a voice from all districts. And this next wave is to try hard to get your voice in here. And that also relates to, Robert, your question of why do people come to the service center, or better yet, why could people come to the service center? That content is in our survey that we want to make sure that we collect in order to form our decisions and ideas moving forward. Who will receive the survey is anyone that we have email addresses for. Unit leaders, parents, we'll get it posted on our website. We'll put posts on Facebook. If you have contact info, if you're a unit leader and you want to share it with your committee or with your parents, please. It's not a private survey, aside from making sure it's directed to constituents of the Mount Baker Council.
Okay, any other questions? Derek, anything to add for the good of the order? I don't know if Stephen's still on or not.
Should be still on.
I think we've covered everything. I would just encourage everybody. I apologize for my dog here. I would just encourage everybody to, go on the survey. And then certainly if you have questions, concerns, ideas, please feel free to send those in.
I'll close if you can still hear me. Hope you can. Kevin, if you could advance to the next slide one more time. That there's an email address at the bottom of that slide there. You could direct questions to that MBC key 3, Mount Baker Council key 3 at bovenkamp.us. Thanks for the use of your domain. You can reach out to Kevin directly at the Scout office. If you reach out to me, we want to be as open and transparent in this communication. We don't have all the decisions. The One Service Center doesn't have all the answers. We need your input in order to make that happen. So please do share information. Please do ask questions. As long as we have the ability to answer those questions, we will. And if not, we'll provide the copy released. We'll send it out along with surveys. But when you're at camp, you're camping in your host center. So appreciate everyone's time tonight. Thank you so much. And we will be in touch soon.
Thank you, everybody.